Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Monday, the 19th of October. Nepal seeks India's help for smooth movement of supplies. Fall of Kunduz, a result of intelligence failure, says Afghan parliamentary committee. And new government in Gilgit failed to fulfill election promises, say locals. And now for all the details. Nepal's Deputy Prime Minister Kamal Thapa is in the Indian capital with a request to open up the border points so that supplies from India could reach the landlocked Himalayan country. An ongoing protest by an ethnic Nepali community has caused a blockade on the India-Nepal border.
Deputy Prime Minister Kamal Thapa, who's also Nepal's foreign minister, requested India to help with smooth movement of supplies from India to Nepal so that people of his country could get relief from the acute shortage of essential goods. The Indian External Affairs Minister is said to have replied that Indian truckers were not willing to risk their lives and supplies because of the ethnic unrest in Nepal. But she said that India could help by sending 300 trucks with supplies through alternate routes if the Nepali authorities could ensure their safety.
India is trying to do whatever it can. But there is an internal security dimension, which is that there is a very fierce and intense protest by the Madhesis, which is why the trucks are not able to move. But it does appear that after the visit of Mr. Thapa, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Indian Foreign Minister, perhaps things will move in the appropriate direction.
In the southern plains of Nepal, which lie close to India, discontent among ethnic groups against the newly promulgated constitution has spilled onto the streets. They justify the blockade of goods to the capital Kathmandu as a necessary pressure tactic because they have been let down by the ruling elite in Kathmandu.
आज मधेश में आंदोलन है, मधेश पीड़ित है, मधेश के जनता आंदोलित है। नेपाल सरकार से आग्रह करें कि जल्द से जल्द मधेशी का समस्या को समाधान करें।
The Nepali Deputy Prime Minister met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the Indian capital today, amidst media reports in both capitals that India had been caught on the wrong foot with regard to Nepal's political turmoil. Nepal initially accused India of fueling unrest by supporting the Madheshi minorities who have links with eastern India. But now the Nepali government wants Indian assistance to defuse tensions which show no signs of dissipating. Nepal has traditionally relied upon India for political and economic reasons. The Modi government is expected to continue with that relationship.
Moving on to Sri Lanka, the Ranil Wickremesinghe government in Sri Lanka has said that the country wants to reboot the economic ties with China. The country has also sought adjustments in the rates of infrastructure loans from China, claiming that it is facing a financial crisis.
Sri Lankan Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake said the country's upcoming budget will be focused on FDI. He said that the new policies will help in foreign investors, including those from China, to invest in the country. This comes at a time when Colombo is trying to win back the confidence of Beijing post the controversy surrounding the cancellation of the China-backed port project. Sri Lanka has also sought the review of terms of a 5 billion infrastructure loan from China as a bulk of the government expenditure goes into servicing them. I urge China to put the acrimony of the past behind us and come and help us by adjusting the terms of the loans to make them more viable. We are serious about putting our relationship on the right path, Karunanayake said. Relations between the two countries soured after the ouster of Rajapaksa in January. China has funded and built nearly 70% of the infrastructure projects in the country in the last 6 years. But the infrastructure facilities, including the harbour and the international airport in Hambantota, are not generating sufficient revenues to pay back the money borrowed from China, causing debt crisis for the country.
Afghanistan is regarded as a dangerous place for journalists to work. The situation has worsened as the Taliban have threatened to kill the scribes for what they term as the negative propaganda against the militants.
The Afghan Taliban had recently published a hit list of media houses and journalists for their reporting on the ongoing conflict in the country. According to reports, some 23 journalists have fled the country this year alone after facing threats to their lives. Many in the field say media is being targeted for reporting on the atrocities of the Taliban after they recently captured Kunduz.
Top security journalist from Kabul who reported non-stop from there for the past 3 weeks, starting from how it happened to why it happened and how lives are affected. We filed more than 100 TV packages from Kunduz, and we profiled families. We indeed covered the story from different angles.
But some journalists are undeterred by the threats by the hardline fundamentalists.
This is not going to affect the way we work. This is not going to set the agenda for us as TV channels or the Afghan media.
Media in Afghanistan faced hostilities under the Taliban regime. But after their fall in 2001, the sector saw some substantial growth with sporadic incidents of crime against journalists coming to light. A number of journalists, including AFP journalist Sardar Muhammad, have been killed by the Taliban in the recent years.
An Afghan parliamentary committee has said that intelligence failures led to the fall of Kunduz city to the Taliban recently. The strategically important city had briefly fallen to the Taliban last month, raking up fears of the country once again slipping into the hands of the insurgents.
The fact-finding committee of the Wilayasi Jirga, or the lower house of the Afghan parliament, on Sunday submitted its report to the government on the fall of Kunduz. Holding country's intelligence agencies responsible for the incident, the report pointed out that the infiltration of the Taliban in the security force ranks in Kunduz was another reason for the collapse of the city. The committee has also warned of similar incidents in the future. The report also states that at least 34 police personnel and 70 civilians lost their lives in various attacks, while the security forces killed over 900 Taliban fighters. It has recommended the government to continue the military operation in Kunduz until the province is completely cleared of Taliban. The Taliban, which had been regaining momentum since the NATO departure last year, took control of Kunduz following a coordinated attack early in September. The city was retaken by the Afghan army supported by the NATO days later.
In neighbouring Pakistan, former President Asif Ali Zardari has claimed that the dictatorial mindset of certain agencies is a threat to Pakistan's democracy. Even though Zardari did not name the army, he has been a vocal critic of the growing influence of the military in the country's administrative affairs.
The parliament is Pakistan's shield against dictatorship and it should be strengthened, Pakistan People's Party co-chairperson Asif Ali Zardari said on Sunday. He claimed that the country's democracy is under threat when institutions and individuals exceed their constitutional authority and trespass into the domain of others. Zardari said this while addressing party workers at the 8th anniversary of a bomb attack on former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto's convoy, which left over 150 people dead. He also urged the party's supporters to be vigilant against the dictatorial mindset that seeks to drive from the rear seat. Zardari has been for some time questioning the growing role of the military for its interference in administrative matters. In June, he had claimed that politicians were better suited to run the affairs of Pakistan and threatened to expose the actions of previous army chiefs. Though Zardari stopped short of naming the all-powerful army in Pakistan, it was quite apparent who he was blaming.
The Pakistan Muslim League government in Gilgit-Baltistan had made promises of improving basic infrastructure within 100 days of coming into power during polls in June this year. But locals in this remote region claim that nothing has changed in the 4 months. A report.
Falling infrastructure, poor road connectivity and prolonged power outages are still the same, although 100 days have passed. With the Pakistan Muslim League government's completion of 100 days, the hopes of seeing a reformed society looks diminishing. Till date, nothing has changed for the people even after electing a new government.
हमारे यहाँ जो बुनियादी चीज़ें उन्होंने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इदारों के अंदर मेरिट की बालादस्ती और इसी तरह कुछ चीज़ें इन्होंने पावर जनरेशन, ये कुछ मामलात थे जिनको इन्होंने इम्पोर्टेंस दी और 100 दिनों के प्रोग्राम में ये बारहा इन्होंने जिक्र किया। अब तक महज दावे ही नज़र आए हैं और इनकी तरफ से जो है महज बयानात अखबारात में नज़र आ रहे हैं।
With the current pace of work, people in Gilgit-Baltistan have already started questioning the political will of the local government.
तो इससे हमें ये अंदाज़ा होता है कि अगले 1 साल में ये फिर उसी रवायती डगर पे चलेंगे, क्योंकि जो चीज़ गैर मामूली अगर होनी हो तो वो 100 दिनों के अंदर उसकी स्ट्रेटजी में वाज़े नज़र आ जाती है। इन्होंने नई कोई टीम अपने साथ थिंक टैंक नहीं बनाया है।
Gilgit-Baltistan was annexed by Pakistan 6 decades ago. Pakistan's decision of conducting polls in June under the Gilgit-Baltistan Empowerment and Self-Government Order is considered by many as an attempt to camouflage the forcible and illegal occupation of the regions.
The deaf and mute girl from India who has been stranded in Pakistan for over a decade will return home next week after completing the legal formalities in Pakistan. The Indian government said that Geeta had identified her family in eastern Bihar, but there were still some legal issues pending.
Geeta, who had been stranded in Pakistan for about 14 to 15 years, will return to India on October 26th. Her family, which she identified from photographs sent by the Indian High Commission, will travel to the Indian capital to receive her. A DNA test of her family members will also be done to establish the relationship. Indian envoy to Pakistan, TCA Raghavan, said all arrangements have been made for Geeta's return.
तो डिले तो इसमें नहीं हुआ क्योंकि ये काफ़ी लंबे सरकारी सिलसिले होते हैं इस तरह के, और मुझे खुशी है कि काफ़ी कम समय में ये पूरा मामला तय हो गया।
Geeta got separated from her family when she wandered over Pakistan when she was 11. Since then, she has been living with a charity organization in Karachi. Her story came to light after an Indian film with a similar plot released in July. Following this, authorities of both the countries have been making all efforts to reunite Geeta with her family.
Moving on to news from India, the Indian Cricket Board has decided to invite bids for 2 new teams for the Indian Premier League. The new teams will replace Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals in the tournament after they were suspended for 2 years after its owners were found guilty of illegal betting. However, the 2 teams have escaped termination from the league and will be allowed to return into the competition in 2018 after they complete the 2-year suspension handed down by a Supreme Court appointed committee. The BCCI has also chosen Chinese smartphone maker Vivo as the new title sponsors of the cash-rich league. This came after the Pepsi, which held the rights, pulled out, citing the controversies around the league. Indian designers brought together royale and elegance at the Blenders Pride Fashion Tour 2015. And adding grace to the show was Indian actor Deepika Padukone. Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. Nepal seeks India's help for smooth movement of supplies. Fall of Kunduz a result of intelligence failure, says Afghan parliamentary committee. And new government in Gilgit failed to fulfill election promises, say locals. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.